So it seems like week after week, there's new updates with different technologies and programs using AI to improve your workflow. MidJourney 4, it was already a cut above the competition, and now AI is no longer competing with artists or designers. They're saying now it's competing with photographers, and it achieves photorealism in most cases of what you're trying to use it for. Myself, as a creative director who works with international brands and makes campaign ideas, brand stories, product innovations, I'm astounded by what we're achieving right now with AI, and I want to show you that process. I prompted MidJourney to get realistic product shots, interiors and exteriors for a project that I did. I want to show you where AI is achieving things that are pain points in the photography process, and I also want to show you which types of photography that AI might replace in the immediate future. So here it is, AI versus photographers. I think the question here is, can AI replace photo shoots? I want to show you how I made these images right here. I think they're pretty high quality. I think they definitely compete with photography. You can imagine if you're in an industry where you need to continually shoot new products and use them for catalogs or for advertisements, this is going to revolutionize your process. I want to show you the AI that I use to make these images. I want to explain my process, and I think that you can recreate that same process. I want to reveal to you my prompts. I think this is the secret that most artists have. I want to show you the rejects, why they didn't work, what are the limitations of the technology. I want to share with you the results, and I think that there's a lot of importance in when we cherry pick the images, which images make the final cut. I want to make a comparison to real photography so you can see the difference about where the technology falls short. And I want to show you some techniques of combining photography with artificial intelligence to get some fast results. And finally, I want to answer the question, is this the death of photography? And I think you're going to find the answer very interesting. So AI versus photographers. Let's start with the AI. I've been using MidJourney. I still think it's the best one on the market. The competitors are DALL-E and Stable Diffusion. This is a quick render of a cute puppy wearing sunglasses and headphones. You can see the comparison across the 3 different AI technologies, and I think MidJourney has the best style, and I think it's ready to use just out of the box. So the idea, which is the most important part of any project, AI is just a tool, and you still need to imagine or to think about what you want to make. And for my project, I wanted to do a collaboration between Jeep and the North Face. I wanted to do this because I wanted to make something that was functional, stylish, reliable for adventure seekers, and something that could capitalize on the shared target audience of outdoor enthusiasts that both of these brands have. So I wanted to imagine a product that they could make together. And when I thought about it, I know that they could sell bags that would sell very easily. They could do keychains, but something that's a little bit more exotic. Some seat covers, obviously, trunk liners, extra interior pockets, a rooftop cargo carrier. I wanted these accessories that would prove how valuable this sort of a collaboration would be. So it starts at the prompt. The text that I use, the first one was, the North Face and Jeep collaborate to make an exclusive series of roof racks for the Jeep Wrangler for winter. And I made sure that it was 4:3 ratio, and then I sent it out to MidJourney. The images that I got back, the very first round, this is version 4, I wasn't very excited with them. I'm not going to zoom in, but already I think the roof rack, it looks like it's a coffin, like carrying a dead body. The extra designs on the car are not very interesting. And there's some weird stuff going on in the background. It looks more like an illustration. It's not very real. So I actually just went and I prompted and changed it a little bit. The North Face and Jeep collaborate to make an exclusive series of roof racks for the 2023 Jeep Wrangler for winter. Original geometric design of the black roof rack with the North Face branding. I'm trying to repeat myself here so that it hears me, but it doesn't. I don't see any North Face branding anywhere. This looks like it might be for Jurassic Park or for some resort. The design isn't very elegant here. I don't think it makes you want to buy something. So I continued. I tried the North Face branded black geometric roof rack mounted on a clean yellow 2022 Jeep Wrangler. I think that this sort of yellow color is some signature of Jeep, but the logos that came out here and the designs, again, it looks like it's a safari vehicle. So I thought maybe not yellow, let's try a different color. I tried white. The North Face branded black geometric roof rack mounted on a minimal clean white 2022 Jeep Wrangler. Now I'm changing 2022, 2023. I don't know which year would be the best, but I mean, they're more or less the same model. But the results that I'm getting still, it looks like it's in the outback somewhere in Australia. These designs look like it's more like aftermarket stickers that you would put on. And I want something that feels original. I want something that feels very premium. And I don't get that premium feeling right now. So I went and I tried black. Black minimal geometric North Face branded hard shell carrier roof rack on a Jeep Wrangler. Mountains. And what I got back was better. I already started to like it. I thought this picture was pretty good right here. I liked this angle, but I didn't like the orange that was there. The sun started to come in and make some weird things, and I didn't like this. It looks almost like an inflatable raft, and I didn't like that, but I thought I'm in a right direction now, and I think that I have to mention that the car is black, and that's the way that I'm going to get a style that I like. So I could feel that I was going in the right direction now. I tried to modify my prompt a little bit. So I wanted to focus then on the actual roof rack, and I wrote the black minimal geometric North Face branded hard shell carrier roof rack product shot. I didn't say Jeep Wrangler in this, and that was a mistake. And I thought maybe this is an interesting format, maybe that. I put it to the side and I decided, okay, let me just modify a prompt a little bit. Black minimal geometric North Face branded hard shell carrier roof rack product shot on top of a black Jeep Wrangler. And these were probably the first images that I was very interested in. I know it was a bit more black and white, but I thought it looked very attractive. When you zoom in and you take a look at some of the design elements that are in here, maybe this roof rack doesn't look too good. And I'm sure if I upscale it, it'll be okay, but it looks like a black mattress. But here the environment looks much more interesting. This looks very cool. This car kind of driving off into the distance. I could imagine that if we needed to change logos, we could. But there's something here which looks very rugged and outdoorsy. And then I just loved this one. I loved the back view of the vehicle. I loved how we had the tire, which is like a signature feature of the Jeep. And then we had the roof rack right above it. I loved the composition. And so I went with that. I upscaled this. You know, the big pain in my butt was that I don't see the logo of North Face, although I've mentioned it very clearly, North Face branded, it's not there. This is one of the challenges that you face when you work with AI, whether or not it listens to you or not. And you kind of have to accept the results, learn how to roll with the punches, and see what you can create. But at this point, I realized that I was using version 4 of MidJourney, and there's a version 5 out, which is even better. So I went into my settings, and I upgraded to version 5 by pressing the button. You can do the same thing in your own MidJourney settings. And then I went into my prompt and I started writing a new prompt. My next prompt was black minimal geometric North Face branded hard shell carrier roof rack product shot on top of a black Jeep Wrangler. The same text as before, and the results that I got were gorgeous. It's beautiful. Now, maybe the roof rack is not perfect, but the images that are coming out of it are far better than version 4. When you look at the lighting effects that are bouncing off of the exterior of the car, it looks like a real photo outside, and I'm very impressed with what's coming out of it. This is another image that was created in version 5. It's part of the same series from the same prompt, and it's a lot more creative with the angles of where it's looking. Now, I'm not exactly happy with the roof rack and the style and the design, but the actual car is looking amazing. You can see here the Jeep logo. It's kind of starting to come out. I mean, it looks very realistic, but there's still little glitches, but it's just gorgeous, every single angle. And the environment without the prompt that it starts to reveal around the car looks very nice. And then with this one, I really liked it. I liked this roof rack that was on here. I saw how it can connect to the other image that we already generated in version 4. I liked how shiny the tires were. I liked the geometry of the tire tread. What I did notice is that the antenna is coming out of the wheel well, and that's not a feature of the real car. Normally the antenna is like right here. So this is a weird glitch. There's lots of little tiny glitches still, but you can see that the photographic effect that we get is far superior than version 4. The problem is I still don't see North Face branded. This was my prompt. I don't see North Face branding anywhere. So I had to change my prompt. I did a macro shot of minimal geometric North Face branded black zipper and material texture from a hard shell carrier roof rack product shot. And this is what came back. Now, when you get in close, I was very impressed with the way that MidJourney handled the logo here, because in version 4, the logos were a mess. In version 5, it already looks quite real. There's an exploration here of different materials. This looks kind of cheap, so I decided to skip it. This one looked not bad. I think I wanted variation because I didn't like the texture that was here. And so I made some variation. And when I look at the variation of that image, this one looked stretched too far. It didn't look very premium. Again, the texture, I don't like the logo on this texture. I don't think it looks right. And then I like this one. I like this one a lot because I thought that the texture was beautiful. It looks like a real North Face logo on this sort of texture of the bag. I mean, it looks like a photo. It looks like a real photo. And I thought we were getting a really nice set of images. But as I said, the logo was missing here and there. So what I did, and you might think I'm cheating, but I decided to go in and just edit the images and to take the logo off of the AI generated image and to implement it on the other AI generated images, because it's not really cheating. MidJourney has made this logo before and I just planted it on some of the other images. And the reason why was because I wanted consistency throughout my images, and I wanted that on the first look, somebody would see the branding and understand immediately that this was a collaboration between Jeep and the North Face. So I was pretty happy with these images and I wanted to start to look at different accessories. So I typed in the North Face times Jeep collaboration, black nylon accessories. I thought this was important to include the texture that I want to see. And what it came back with was pretty immediately usable images from the first round. And you can look at the textures that are there. The form is quite interesting. You can see the Jeep in the background. Now the Jeep, it looks pretty old and funky. So I knew that if I wanted this, I would have to reprompt. It looks like it's a single seater. Like I can't really see where the passenger seat is. On the bag, obviously the branding is not there. Like I don't see the branding anywhere. There's a little bit of a problem here with the geometry. It looks a little bit odd. But some of the other images are very cool. I mean, when I look at this and I look at the textures that are inside of there, again, the logo is not perfect, but it looks very close. And if you would squint your eyes, like you can just almost see and make out the North Face written there. The textures are amazing. And the shape and the form of what I'm seeing, you can imagine that you can give this to a product team. And the product team could already, from these images, start to design these new accessories and bags based off of these images. And then I saw this image and I was reminded of the fact that I wanted to make the trunk liner for the back of the Jeep. And I thought that was a great image to move on to. So I wrote out Jeep Wrangler 2022 rear trunk cargo bed liner, branded with the North Face logo, product shot, the North Face branding. Again, I keep on just writing these prompts, trying to think about how I would explain it even to a producer or to a photographer about what I'm trying to capture. And what I got back was pretty beautiful. I mean, photography-wise, the lighting, the style, the mood that's going on here, it looks gorgeous. But the actual shape and architecture of the car, you can see again, the driver's side looks like it's a little bit too far in. This is just a piece of cardboard here. I don't want that in the image. On the right side, I don't think this is a great image just because the trunk liner doesn't look super durable. It looks like it's just this extra coating on top. It looks like something that comes stock with the car already. And taking a look above, the mood and the image is beautiful, but look at what's going on here. The seat is flipped at a 90-degree angle, looking out of some open sliding door, like as if it's a minivan. The camera's a little bit drunk. It's confused about which place it's looking. This is the trunk space, right? And the wheel is just sitting there. Now, I could prompt again and again until I found something that was right, but I was already many images deep. This was like midday, and I just thought that this was good enough to explain a product, a trunk liner, that would be in the back of the Jeep. I thought this was the best image that I had seen so far, regardless of the tire being there, which doesn't make any sense because these tires are in the wrong location of the car. But it's okay because at first glance, you wouldn't notice that. At first glance, you would be focusing on this, and the tire would be just this element which kind of convinces you that this is rugged and that it's outdoors. When I take a look at the real Jeep, this is a great comparison, that inside, this box doesn't actually exist. And there's a roll bar which goes across the interior that protects the Jeep if it rolls over. It's absolutely absent from this image. And you can even see the headrests from the 2020 series of the Jeep. They're a little bit different than the headrests that we're seeing here. So we're not looking to MidJourney or to AI image generation right now to be 100% accurate. You see problems in the logos. You see problems in the architecture of the product that you have. You can see the taillights, and the taillights have a very unique design. There's been an attempt to incorporate that into the image. At a quick glance, you might just see that it's a unique taillight design, but you can see that it's kind of stuck on the interior a bit. Like, it's not really understandable if this is the interior or the exterior of the car. But that's not what we're focusing on. We're focusing on a concept or an idea. And I think this is where the technology shines through as helping you demonstrate an idea or a context of a product that you want to invent. I just went in and I edited out this strange logo that was there. I implemented a North Face logo from one of the other generated images that I had because I thought it sold the idea a lot better. So then I went back and I made a new prompt. Black, the North Face times Jeep branded keychain, nylon zipper pocket. And I understood immediately that this was a difficult thing to render because the word nylon has a lot of associations with it. And you can see that these look very cheap. There's lots of threads that are hanging off. It doesn't look like it's a very sturdy material. The logo is not there. Here it's kind of happening, and I don't see the utility of this. I don't understand what it's for. If it's a pocket, it's just very small to put some coins or change inside of it. I don't see, what is this for? Does it float? I don't understand the utility of it. So I decided to regenerate it. And when I regenerated it, I got some new images. And with the new ones, I liked the exterior. I liked the setting. I thought the logos were a little bit better. And with this one, this is where I stopped and I fell in love because it looked like the shape of a fanny pack, but a little bit smaller. I imagine that you could keep keys or credit cards or like a Swiss Army knife inside of this little pocket. And I liked the keys that were around it. Like, they didn't look like they're distracting. They help accommodate the image, and I like the mood of the image. But I want to say that if I was to shoot this image, there'd be a big problem, because imagine the money that the North Face and Jeep would be spending on producing this image. And to see their logo kind of warped, it would be a very bad thing to do. So if I was shooting this in a studio, we would adjust the material so that the logo would be as visible as possible. Right now it's not, and I didn't want to waste my time changing it. Again, I'm trying to be as true to the technology and to the limits of the technology as possible. So I just stuck with this image and I kept it in our library. The next one, interior of a black Jeep Wrangler with minimal geometric North Face branded utility seat covers, North Face branded headrests. So I want to do these headrests and seat covers. And what I got back was interesting, but not great. I didn't see the utility. It's not really covering the entire seat here. What I want to draw your attention to as well is how the interior is modified between some of these images. The machine learning is generating some of these elements. It's affecting also the interior of the Jeep. This window is a little bit different than that window, and these extra pieces which are there. And I think I know where this extra, like, I don't know if it's an armrest, but if you squint your eyes, it looks like it's a steering wheel, but in the finalization of the image and upscaling of the image, it looks like it turned it into a handlebar because it was a little bit confused. When I say it, I mean the machine. So looking up above, there was some issues here as well. I didn't think that anything was really making sense. I wasn't sold on this idea. Again, look at how the seats are different, where these are divided down the middle and these are whole. And I only asked for seat covers. It's struggling to find where the seat finishes and the seat cover begins. So I decided that I'm gonna have to go back and I'm gonna have to redo this one. I tried for a new set of images. I didn't see anything that stood out until I saw this one. Maybe the seat covers are not amazing that are coming out of this. Especially in the driver's seat, there's big problems here with the steering wheel. But what I really liked was the extra pockets that were coming off of the seatbelt. Now, I don't know how intentional this is from the actual AI. This is a fluke. It's just a coincidence. But I loved what came out of it because I could imagine this as extra storage inside of the car. And I think this is something great that you can put it and attach it and then take it with you when you need to. But I wanted to compare this to the real interior of the Jeep. And the real photo, I mean, is a little bit of a different angle, but take a look at the armrest. So it's not reading the armrest correctly. And at first glance, I thought that this was the actual door, but then I understood when somebody commented online that actually the door handle is not supposed to be just next to you. It's supposed to be a little bit further up because that's where your arm naturally reaches to open up the door. And you can see in the real Jeep, it's not there. And there's something weird happening where it looks like the window is this extension that has been placed on top of it. Like there's cracks in the window. It's not very well insulated. And in the real one, there's a door frame. So I think that the AI is getting a little bit confused. This image is not perfect, but it's good enough to demonstrate the product that we're trying to create with our prompt. So what I did was I went and I added the North Face logo. I plucked it off of a different image generated by artificial intelligence, and I just pasted it onto this one. And I also cropped the image a little bit just because obviously the steering wheel is a bit broken. And like this, you can't see some of those mistakes. This is what we're focusing on as the audience. This is what I'm trying to sell. This is what I think is interesting. So I decided to ignore the rest of the image and just crop it in favor of the product that I'm creating. And from here, I decided to just finish up with some other images. I typed in beautiful product photography, the North Face times Jeep Wrangler 2022 collaboration, black Jeep, black nylon accessories. I'm very vague explaining what I want here. And it started to give me models. You know, I didn't ask specifically for models, but it started to give them to me. And look at how photographically real these images look. This person's not perfect, but the textures that are coming off of the hat here, the way that the light bounces off of some of the threads is pretty incredible. I wasn't in love with the bag that I saw. And you can see again, when something is in the background, this is not right. This Jeep looks like it has 3 doors now in the back of it. So there's something weird happening with machine learning when it starts to finalize the image. And you can see here, like, obviously this tire is standing too far out of the wheel well. It should be in the wheel well. And this other one looks like it's coming out of the door. So this is not correct. But the atmosphere, I really like the atmosphere. So I decided to give it a retry. And on the retry, I got some better close-ups of the bag. And I thought the bag was really cool here, but it didn't look very North Face style. It looked like a little bit more like Calvin Klein or something like that. I loved the car that was in there. But when I looked up, I saw this image and I thought, that's it. That's the one. Because look at how high quality this image is. This is AI generated and it looks real. It looks like it's from an actual photo shoot. You can see small little problems, maybe with the hand and maybe with the finger mutated. And you can see in the background, this should say Rubicon, but it's kind of like a mesh of different letters. But overall, if you were to take a look at this image, you wouldn't notice that this was made from AI. You would really think that this is a real model and this person doesn't even exist. Now, in the background, again, there's other problems, whether this is 2 Jeeps, which one has been parked like horizontal and the other one with the backside facing us. It doesn't really make sense as the architecture and form and shape of that car doesn't make sense at all. But when you're focusing only on the model, you get a feeling, I think, in the atmosphere that we're trying to create of selling this promotion of North Face and Jeep. This image works quite well. So these are the images that I generated. And I did this in one day. I had generated about 100 images. And from those 100 images, I selected 12 that I thought demonstrated the idea really well. So from all of these images, I'm cherry picking which ones I think work to create the set which makes the technology shine. So let's be realistic about what the technology can actually do, because from 100 images, I'm not actually using all 100 of those images. I'm only using a small percentage of them. And even the ones that I do use, I might be recropping it. I might be adding a logo here or there. I might be doing cleanup or recoloring some of the image to make sure that it matches consistency in the series. I think with most projects right now, we're looking at these cherry-picked curated selection of images and thinking that this is AI. But the fact is, this is AI. And this is how a person selects, curates, and takes what they need in order to express their idea. And I think that's a big, big difference. My goal is to give you a realistic expectation about what AI can do today. There are definitely ways that AI can speed up your process. I didn't have to have any of these physical objects here. I could prompt and sort of create the environment around these objects. And without going into production or sketching some of these objects, I was able to get prototypes that look real, that look like an explanation of the concept. And my idea really comes to life from these images. But look at this process of 100 images generated, spanning throughout a day, and even the result is not exactly what I want. There have been some moments of serendipity where I didn't plan for something, but it came out looking very cool. But if I was to sketch it, if I was to go into a 3D program, I would have a lot more control over what I wanted to create. However, the amount of time required to get these high quality renders would be immense. So there is a trade-off here. You will surrender control, but in return, you'll get images that feel more real. So if I was doing a project and it would have to be 100% AI, this is how I approach it. But I want to show how this compares to photographers. So let's take a look at the process in photography. When it comes to photography, you get total control. You'll be in a studio or an environment where you can snap off thousands of images and shoot every angle and detail that you want in the product or the model. And from those thousands of images, you will still cherry pick and select and curate maybe 3 or 4 that you think really express what you want from the whole photo shoot. If the project that I made that you saw from AI was an actual photo shoot, it would be broken down like this. You do 1 day in a studio because you can see that this is more studio lighting. You could see that you might have some rocks that are in a studio or textures that you put around it. These are definitely studio lamps. This is not natural lighting here. And you'd have 1 day on location where you'd have to select that location, get the models there, and bring all the products that you want to photograph along with the Jeep and drive it out there. That's already just of photographing 2 days of work to get those images, which we generated in 1 day. But you can imagine if we were actually on set, I could fix some of the nylon and the shaping of the products. I could make sure that some of the details of the interior and exterior of the car were very realistic. These images could never be a replacement for a real collaboration. And the reason why is because of the little errors that we see, which are essential to all of the investment that both of these companies have made in their products, whether it's the actual Jeep and the exterior or the problems with the interior or the actual logo design of the North Face or some of the DNA of how their products normally look. You can see that the nylon sometimes looks cheap or doesn't look in the best form, and the amount of image retouch and editing to make it look perfect would be easier if we were on location and we just had a stylist come in and adjust something. So if we take a step back from here, if this was really a shoot, you'd have to set it up with a couple of days of scouting, of finding the location that we're going to shoot on. And you'd have to present that to our 2 clients and make sure that they approve it. You'd have to do a couple of days of casting. This could be that it came from a catalog. Maybe the client wants to be very involved and to do personal casting. You do at least 1 day of a pre-production meeting, listing all of the objects and all of the lighting and the timings and the props and the locations and the setup that we're going to do. You'd have our 2 days, which I mentioned before, and you would always, for any photography shoot, still have days of retouch. So this is not as simple as doing just 2 days. There's still setup and there's still retouch that would still be required, even from the raw photos that come out of that photo shoot. So you can imagine why many agencies and brands are really excited about what this means for productivity and also the cost of production for making a photo shoot. But as I said, there's still a lot of challenges right now, and there's limiting factors in the technology in the way it exists today, which means that it cannot replace the quality that comes out of a real photo shoot. A super important factor is resolution. When I compare MidJourney to a full frame camera or to a medium format, which is a very, very large format sensor, MidJourney only comes out at about 1 megapixel. It's 1024 by 1024. And that's what 1 megapixel might look like. But when you compare that to a full frame, like a 45 megapixel Canon, which is 45 times the size of a MidJourney image, you can see the staggering difference in quality. Sony makes one that's 61 megapixels in their digital camera, and their sensor looks like that in comparison to 1 megapixel, or even in comparison to the 45 megapixels from Canon. And when it comes to medium format, you can imagine a phase 1 that has 151 megapixels, and it's giant. It's mammoth in comparison to the size that MidJourney is outputting today. Obviously, there's tools where you can upscale those megapixels and double them, triple them. But if the original material is upscaled 3 or 4 times, it's going to start to look bad. And there's no replacement for having the original photo in a very high resolution format. This is a very big deal because when it comes to printing out a giant billboard on the side of a building, your premium quality brand needs to have premium quality photography that matches the level of quality that you're trying to communicate. There's a bit more flexibility when it comes to digital screens, but for print, it's very difficult to cheat on quality. Looking at all the shortcomings that we discussed, there's some ways that AI and photographers can work together. Here's some techniques like AI photo fusion. This is an example of a couple of photographers who are trying to do a photo shoot and blend it into the background of an image that they generated in MidJourney. And so they adjust the lighting to make sure that it matches the background from MidJourney. And when they get an approximate similar angle, then they blend it in and they make the image come together. The actual product, or in this case, the bottle, looks perfect. It's not something that you're going to risk on AI misinterpreting one of the angles or one of the parts of the structure. You want it to be ideal. And in that case, you're going to have to use photography to show off the real physical elements that this product has. Here's another great example of background effects that can be generated with AI and then incorporated with a real photo of the product. The prompt here was liquid splash, product photography, swirling clusters of raspberries, blackberries, blueberries. This image was created. And then he went and photographed the actual container with similar lighting, cut it out in Photoshop, and then placed it over the bottle, which MidJourney had generated, and kind of found ways to retouch the image so that it all seemed to be incorporated together. You can see how fast this process is, and within a couple of hours, with some retouch, you can have something that would take probably a whole day to photograph and to get all these images of blueberries together. You would have no problem using this and leveraging it as product photography, whether it's on Instagram or Facebook posts or even as a big poster outside. There'd be some challenges with upscaling some of those background elements, but it looks pretty good at this resolution. There's another method, which is AI inspiration. This photographer was inspired by this beautiful decorative mask that MidJourney had created. So she went out and she recrafted it physically so that she could incorporate it into her photo shoot and then build a costume around it, added some smoke effects, and then had total control over the environment. So the argument is not whether this final shot is better than the MidJourney shot. The argument is that this on the right is totally original and it's inspired by what came out of MidJourney. We're going to see a lot more reference images and mood boards coming out of MidJourney in the agency and production process. Because many brands, when they're looking at inspiration for how they're going to shoot something, instead of copying the work from another photographer, you can have something that's more original that comes out of MidJourney, and you can take inspiration from the angles and lighting and recreate it in your final shot. So now the big question, can AI replace shoots? And the answer is maybe. Because these images that we're looking at right now, food photography, these are actually made by MidJourney. And believe it or not, I mean, when you look at this and you see the cheese melting, you feel like it's very appetizing. But the fact that it's fake blows my mind. Levi's, for example, recently announced that they're going to use AI-generated models to increase diversity. Now, the internet reacted terribly about this. Take a look at the site of the company that Levi's is working with. The name of the company is La La Land. And here on their website, they talk about how this software enables you to just take this AI-generated model, to add the asset, which is this clothing element, and they will give you the output, which is this image you can now use on your e-commerce platform. And you don't need to send any physical samples. It's faster than Photoshoots. It takes 5 minutes, they say. This is not a real person, they say. This is just an AI-generated image. This other person on the left, it's also not real. It's AI-generated. And so the idea is that you can generate hundreds of different types of models with different ethnical backgrounds, demonstrating the garment that you want to sell. And you can imagine if you're a client, this sounds pretty good because you have lots of cost savings when it comes to the variety of talent that you're trying to use to showcase your products. For the individual, I think it's a little bit scary because you understand all the shortcuts that brands can take with AI and where that means real people are not going to have jobs. If I had to plot it all out on a graph of which photography is at danger of AI replacement and which photography is safe, I'd probably put it like this. On the far left, you see catalog photography. We just saw that Levi's is using it. When you need to create thousands of assets on a model, it's quicker to let the digital technology take over. When it comes to stock photography, there's already websites that are trying to, as you type out what you want to see, the websites generate the images that you can use. If you've ever spent a lot of time on a stock photography portal, you've seen that the lighting is not perfect. There's many things that you want to adjust. If it's easier for an AI to output an image which looks closer to what you want, it's going to replace a lot of those stock photo libraries fast. Product photography, why this isn't at the highest danger is because of the limitations that we saw today, where AI has a challenge of recreating the product perfectly. But you can imagine the fusion, where the environment or the background or elements of the product are created with AI, and then the product itself could be a photograph. Food photography. We just saw the incredible images that AI can already make of food photography, but every chef is an artist as well, and they have unique elements that might not be able to be captured by AI. Fashion photography, like product photography, is trying to reflect the light naturally. It's trying to show off an artist's creation in its original format. You're not trying to recreate something. It might be a great source of inspiration, but I don't think that it's going to be replacing the final products for like a fashion house. It might be that 5 years from now, you go in to get your portrait taken in a studio, they take a couple of angles of your head and they put it into AI and they come out with many different types of costumes and lighting and makeup and hairstyles, improvements to your smile, retouching wrinkles or pimples. You can create something that's ideal, and you could even pay like a subscription to have this ideal model of your head. But there's still a personal element that's important in there. That's going to be the source material that the photographer uses that they maybe plug into AI. Automotive photography has the same challenges as product photography and fashion photography. With a product like a car, you have so many unique angles and elements that are inside of there. If you get one thing wrong, it could be considered false advertising. So many brands will try to play it safe and either work from CAD models that are generated in 3D or directly go to photography. To have any element of risk with AI where your automotive photography might not look real, I don't think that brands want to deal with those types of problems. Real estate photography could be that you need the original source material, but then you plug it into AI to enhance it, whether that's retouch or adjusting lighting and furniture so that the buyer can imagine the potential home that they can have. Fine art photography is under less risk because it's an art style. So if it makes sense for the artist's vision, they might use some AI. Travel photography, it depends on the location, but normally you're trying to demonstrate the reality of a place that exists. But sometimes those photos are so retouched that it might make sense just to generate some images that are original in AI without needing the rights or to take a trip to some location to use it on your travel brochure. For people that go out and like to take pictures, half of the enjoyment is being there in person, and I don't think they're going to replace it with AI. Architecture photography is something similar where you're showing off something that has been built, something that takes place in the real world, so it's hard to imagine that it's going to be totally replaced by AI. Already there's lots of 3D models in architecture, but that's more in the planning phase. But in the final result, you never really want to replace the building with something that's fake. And here, the types of photography that are definitely safe, we have photojournalism because it's about reality, wildlife photography because it's about reality, sports photography because it's about something that really happened in that moment, and event photography. When you have a wedding, when you have a new product launch, different politicians were somewhere, these are not going to be replaced because this is about reality. So I think this is a pretty accurate map of the state of photography and where it's going. How do I feel as a photographer and as a creative and an artist? I'm afraid. I'm really excited about the advances of the tools that exist right now, but it's really scary to think that some parts of the industry are at threat of being replaced. I saw a good quote the other day. We're right now at the AI assisted stage of the innovation curve. It's all about AI assisting people to do their job. We're not yet at the replacement stage. The deeper you get into AI, you start to understand there's a lot of human control, which is important to guiding it to perform the task that you want to achieve. AI will replace some creatives, but not the ones who continue to learn. And I think that's the best way to look at it. And that is AI versus photographers. My name is Eric Groza. I'm an international creative director. I have over 50 awards in marketing and communication. I work with many brands to create innovations or communication or advertisements or even products or services. You can check me out on LinkedIn. I have more articles and explanations of the type of work that I do. You can see behind the scenes on Instagram or Facebook. Subscribe to my channel on YouTube if you want to see more of this. Like the video if it was helpful, and feel free to share this video with anybody in the industry that you think could benefit from it. Thanks for watching.